Again, everybody. And today is, what is it? It's January 16th, 2024. And welcome again to the fourth episode of Outside the Box. Today, we're going to do a lot of the Mandela effect. We skipped on some the other day. We might even get into some more conspiracy theories. But before we get started, I want to say that anything we talk about and whatever it is that we show on here are for educational purposes only. We do them under our own research and they are of our own opinion. We advise you to use your own discernment and do your own research. And with that being said, I guess let's go. We've got Andy and we've got Susie down here.
Howdy.
Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Yep.
Busy day?
Kinda, yeah. It has been.
How you doing there, Susie?
Doing good.
Good. It's cold, people. It's way too cold.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'd rather have it too cold than have it too hot. Being here in Texas, it does that a lot.
Right?
But so they say that the Mandela effect is like false memories that kind of combined, but there's a lot of people. I was being nice and said 50,000. Susie said millions of people who all remember the same things. So obviously, if there's that many, it can't be considered a false memory. So what all kinds of things do you have there, Susie, on the Mandela effect?
Okay, so and that when they say, it's like we always have to like wonder who they are. Who are they? Who are they to tell everybody what is or isn't versus what other people say what is or isn't? So
they're usually people we didn't vote in that think that they're right. So
yeah, well, or people who maybe aren't awake, people who don't want to tell the truth, or people who don't have those memories or don't remember those things. So they're going to discount everything that they hear. It's like people who don't believe in God.
It's true.
You can't prove, anything. Or, if they don't believe in it, it's a lost cause,
Right. Not until anything happens that they will believe it themselves. So
true.
But
so they have to have their own experience, and that's why we always say do your own research.
Right.
We've done our research, and this is what we have come to understand, and this is what we understand. Doesn't mean you understand it or they understand. They, right?
Yeah, everybody, whoever.
Yeah, it's those that fit in that group, right? In that group.
I've come to the conclusion that our whole entire timeline has done like this roadway split. And like there's some of us going this way, and then there's some of us going this way. And we're over here on this side waiting for them other people to catch up and come back this way.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're hitting a few speed bumps, though. I don't know what's going on with them, but hey. But now I know that there are a lot of things that people even looked up that they just, unbeknownst to them, they don't even understand it. Like I know that when my daughter was little and I would put on that Curious George cartoon, Curious George had a tail. Curious George had a tail. Curious George had a tail in the old books. But he no longer has a tail, and people say they don't remember him having one. There's a lot of people that say they don't remember it. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people that remember him having one.
True.
I remember him having one.
There's both. There's, some of my friends coined it old world, new world, Some
Yeah.
people are from the old world and they remember like the tale. And if you're not from the old world, you're just from the new world. You know, that's their thing. Personally, you know, to me, it's not really so much old world, new world, as it's your memory gets erased, like in Men in Black. You know, you don't remember, like a little bit of amnesia when the when this. It's kind of like to me. What I heard God tell me was like the Big Bang. Okay, that Big Bang, that like that show, The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not completely off when they say Big Bang, meaning that it's more of a spiritual sort of thing. Like there's a okay. So did you ever see that movie? Was it Time Machine?
Oh, the H.G. Wells.
There was like two versions, an old version and a new version of Time Machine.
I've seen the old one. I have seen the old one by H.G. Wells.
Okay, so there's two of them. Now I remember watching Time Machine when I was in kindergarten, and it was late at night. I was supposed to go to bed for school, and I remember the movie was on, and I thought, oh my God, that is like the most important movie that I will ever see in my life. And I'm thinking that when I'm like 5 and 6 years old. You know, I see this movie and it's about a time machine. And what I remember about that show was this guy ends up going down in a tunnel and in the ground. And he finds out that these people that live underground have been coming up, kidnapping people, taking them down in the tunnel, breeding them and eating them.
Oh.
And so I remember that at 5 years old, and I was like so terrorized by the fact that these things live under the ground, and you know they're coming up and they're kidnapping. And according to the show, the humans that were living on the earth were like complacent, like they had to accept what was happening to them, you know, and they would run and try to get away from these creatures would come up, and then they'd kidnap them, and then they'd take them down so they could be food or whatever for the underground, you know, whatever, you know, those things were that they were living down there. And now we have like the sewer Jews, as they call it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
You know, and we're finding out that they had you know, it came out, you know, here we go back to the news, but the news did broadcast in New York that these sewer Jews had these underground tunnels and these bases, right, or whatever they want to call it, rooms, and they said that they were the blood of white children was being shed on these mattresses they were bringing up out of there. And they found out that they were doing circumcision, because Jewish people circumcise all their kids, right?
Right.
And so they were circumcising, but they said that they were removing the foreskins with their mouth because the DNA, you know. So these guys doing some sick stuff down there, you know.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Now those, it is. I guess I don't want to say that and be politically incorrect. But what I heard and what I think, or my opinion, is the whole temple is the Zionist.
Yeah.
The Zionist temple, correct?
Yes. Zionist is a Zionist belief system that they follow. The Zionism. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Kind of like, it would be like a Christian cult, you know. You're not against the Christians, you're not against the Jews, but you're against the cults or the satanic cults that form within different denominations or different races of people.
Right.
So nobody's pointing fingers at any one particular race, right? But you're pointing your finger at a cult
Right.
that people are joining. Yeah.
Yeah, because that whole underground thing, I think they said they're still investigating, but yes, they found mattresses that have what they call body fluids. So,
Yeah, you could see it on the mattress with the
right.
blood.
And a barrel full of foreskins. I mean, I
And
don't know why you keep all those in a barrel, but
that's just a tip. That's just a little story that's been going on. There was a Rabbi Finkelstein that came out years ago and talked about how they consider anybody else not in their little cult group a goyim, and that goyim is their enemy, and so they sacrifice them, and then they this is in the Talmud of the Zionists. Okay, in their Talmud, it's in their book, their holy book, right? Anyway, they will if you're not one of them, that you should be killed, and they will drink your blood. Then they will take all these bodies, and they will grind them up in the slaughterhouses with the beef and pork and stuff like that, and mix the human
right.
with the animal, and then they sell it to McDonald's and Burger King and
Right.
these fast foods, Taco Hell, and all these other. Yeah,
I've been finding some of that stuff and reading it too. And oddly enough, the funny thing about it is, wait a few years, Mandela effect will kick in, and all that'll be people don't remember it. So, but give it a little bit, and let too.
Right. So what you have is, okay, so in that movie, A Time Machine, he goes down, he's using a time machine to go forward and back in time, and he finds out that these creatures, this thing that's going on, and it's going on in the future. But so with that movie, The Time Machine, what we have is what I was told by God was this Big Bang theory, basically that say, for example, when that guy gets on that machine and he turns that dial to a certain date, and then that machine goes to that date. Okay. So there's two versions of Time Machine. There's an old version and a new version. I would recommend people watch both. Very fascinating show.
I
And
haven't seen it in forever.
oh yeah, so fascinating. I mean, even the new one, I love the new one too. So he when he does travel, like for example, when he travels back in time, he was going to go back and change something. Okay, and he does go back and alter an incident, and so then time has to reset. So that now, and that's like the Big Bang. So that's what the Big Bang is. It's like once something has caused an event to change, then it has to reset it. And so that Big Bang is like, it's like it's I don't know the scientific explanation for what happens, but it's just imagine a big kind of explosion in the natural and the spiritual realm that happened all at once. Everything changes within a like that.
Right.
So when that happens, that's the Big Bang. Now he goes back, he changes something, he comes up to the future. Now the outcome has changed somewhat, a little bit. So this is what people are like seeing when they find out this Mandela effect. They're looking at memories of, say, like George with the tail, and then all of a sudden you look around now, and the books don't have the monkey doesn't have a tail. So it's like, what happened to the tail? Because in your memory,
right, you know that there was a tail, and when you say what happened to the tail, people look at you like they're crazy, like you're nuts, and they say, "Well, there never was a tail." Well, yes, there was. There was a tail.
Some people, and like I said, some people don't. That when that when that change happens, they don't remember. They just do not remember. And other people have no problem holding on to those memories.
The
Some people
Bernstein, the
have very,
Bernstein Bears. That's another one.
right,
Now it's an A. Is it now it's an A and not an E? It's Bernstein Bears and not Bernstein Bears.
right.
And
Chick-fil-A changed its spelling several times.
yes, yes. I think that was because it was new and they just couldn't make up their mind.
Well, that's what some people would, reason that, they would try to look at anything different than a Mandela effect, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean,
One of the biggest confusing, I think, was the JFK assassination.
yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. At one
'Cause
moment, there was more people in the car than there was the next, or the seats were sitting different and everybody was facing each other. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a glitch. And all of a sudden, now they're not there.
right, I always remembered 4 people in the car, 2 rows, front seat and a back seat. And if you go into the museums all across, the different museums, the JFK museums, it's all 4 people, 2 rows of seats. Okay. And a lot of people, that's what they remember. The museums have that now. But if you go back and you look at the video, it's showing 6 people, 3 rows of seats. I mean,
Right.
that's really going to be mind-boggling and confusing.
Yep.
So when I asked James Files and Pamela, James Files being, the one who shot JFK, if they believe in the Mandela effect, and they said, most definitely, yes, we do. And I said, do you think that James was in every timeline? She says, I don't know.
Yeah.
I should have dug a little deeper and asked if there was 4 seats or, 4
4
people
seats
in
or more.
James, on what reality did you shoot him?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Which timeline?
it's like there's timelines. And so which timeline did we have? Let's
I'm
see.
going to have to ask Pamela. Yeah. I'm going to call her and ask her. I was like, which timeline do you remember? Was it 4 people in there when he took that shot, or was there 6 people in there?
Was there, how many people did we have here?
I remember, when I was kind of looking into it years ago, I remember this one debate that people were having, and they said, well, I think maybe the driver turned around and shot him. Okay. Well, that would be fine. But now in the most modern video of it today, right, it shows like a glass wall behind the driver. So, how's he going to shoot through a glass wall? It wasn't, see, that's the point. There was no divider back in the day, in the original,
Right.
but there is no, and there will be people out there who only remember 6 people, Now my bosses, his family, they were related to John Connally, who was in the car in the last one. So, Governor John Connally, who was governor of Texas, was in there with his wife, in the last version of it, So
Right.
that was kind of weird. So the JFK one is definitely a weird one, What about this one? Always was really weird to me. Statue of Liberty. I remember it being on Ellis Island.
Yeah.
It's not on Ellis Island now. It never was, apparently, in, story of history, right?
Really.
Yeah, Ellis Island. Yeah, and that was. But I've talked to a lot of people who remember Ellis Island and their parents coming to Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty being on Ellis Island. Now it's on, I don't even know, another island that's not Ellis Island.
Right.
And, who remembers, the story, the called Black Tom? Who remembers when the Germans blew up that dynamite and blew off the torch on the Statue of Liberty during World War II or World War I or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did
it was
did they construct it? Wasn't that like under construction for a long time?
yeah, people couldn't go up into the tower. A lot of people don't remember that was a terrorist attack when the Germans, set off. And they said there was like for 25 miles or something, all the windows blew out of everybody's house. But
I
and
I
then
have,
they said, huh?
I have a real old one. I don't know how many people would remember this, but most people who know anything about like Henry VIII, he was not a good man, but he was always eating. So when they did his portrait, they did it with him holding a turkey leg. And now if you see down here, it's no turkey leg. It is like a rolled up black napkin or, something to that effect. But there's no turkey leg. Now, this was a oil painted portrait who is signed by the same person that did it way back then. Like, the ones that did when you had Mona Lisa and all of them. But yet they changed this portrait because now there's no turkey leg. Now, where did this turkey leg go, people?
To the old world.
Apparently so. So now Henry VIII is no longer eating a turkey leg. Go figure. But yeah, there's just so many things. So many different things.
One of the ones that really, really got to me was the one about Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall.
The Gorillas in the Mist
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver played the movie Gorillas in the Mist, and it was about gorillas, right? And so Jane Goodall, it was a documentary. It wasn't even a movie. It was a documentary about Jane Goodall. And she went to Africa and was working with the gorillas, and there were poachers and stuff like that. And in the movie, they end up in the documentary, it showed like she had a boyfriend that was from New York or something, and he wanted her to leave and leave Africa and stuff, but she wouldn't. So she stayed in Africa. And one night the poachers came in and murdered her. Okay. So they did this documentary about Jane Goodall. Well, somehow it turns out that this documentary that many, many people remember the story. Now the story goes accordingly that it was never Jane Goodall. It was some lady named Diane Boosie or something. Who knows who even that was about. And that Jane never ever worked with gorillas. She just worked with chimpanzees. Okay. And this other, it was completely flipped around. And, and then one day when I'm actually friends with Jane Goodall on Facebook because it trips me out. Freaking trips me out, but, it just, I couldn't believe, that story was a documentary. Then that whole story isn't the same story anymore,
Right.
So that was a weird.
Yeah. And everything gets changed so much. But I want to know why. What is the significance of it? Why does it happen? How does it happen? Who's making the decisions that it should happen? You know what I mean? I've looked and I've looked and I've looked to see who might be responsible for this Mandela effect. And you can't find anything.
Well, it's pretty simple. If people do the research and they know that the government has been involved in time travel, okay, then every time someone goes back in time, you know, they're going to
So
mess with the
they got,
timeline.
yep, they got to mess with something, one thing or another.
All
And
they
I mean,
got to do is either got to move one item, go back and you move one item, can change a whole reality.
but I know, but look at what they're moving. I mean, if they're going to move something big, like, you know, move the Eiffel Tower about
Well,
10
I
yards
mean,
another
they
way.
did. I mean, they moved the Statue of Liberty off of another island.
Well,
They,
that's true. But why take Curious George's tail? What did that do?
it's, you know, I guess the writer of that story decided to leave him without a tail. You know, it's
Oh, just like, okay, just like in Star Wars, when Darth
yeah.
Vader
Well,
and Luke are fighting, and he says, "Luke, I am your father." And now, if you go back and listen to the movie, it says, "No, I am your father."
doesn't even say Luke anymore. Yeah, doesn't
Nope.
say Luke.
And I
There's
know
no
damn
Luke.
well it said, "Luke, I'm your father." I was there the first day it came out with my grandma
What is
and
that?
my little
James
uncle.
Earl. James Earl. What is his name? The guy who played Darth Vader. He even talks about. He even quotes the scripture, or not scripture. I was thinking about the scriptures. He quotes that saying about Luke. I'm your father.
Yeah,
But it's not in the show. It's not in Star Wars anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now, okay, so Jack had come up with a theory on that. Now, this is what he said. When they went in and wrote all the new Star Wars and stuff like that, that they went back and they changed that then.
Well,
Okay,
that
maybe.
theory wouldn't hold up, and you know why?
Why?
Okay, so let's just say you had bought that movie Star Wars, and you had a VCR tape in your home. Okay,
Right.
all right. You bought the original. That thing's been sitting in
Right.
the box. Now you go and you get that VCR out and you play it. It's different.
Yep.
You
It
didn't
won't
go buy
say
a
it.
new VCR. Okay, you did
Yep.
not buy a new VCR. You have the original, and the original is not the same.
Yep. Very true. Very true. And there's been people that have actually proven that.
Yes, and
I mean,
one of
I
the
don't.
weird ones for me too was this one in the Bible. There's a lots in the Bible. Okay, a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
changes that took place, and it can make a lot of people mad. Well, you can get glad in the same pants you got mad in. You know, right? Just
Yeah.
get happy. Um, so the one that was really weird for me was the one it was in the New Testament, and it was something that Jesus said. Now he kind of alluded to it in before because I read it so many times, but he didn't quite say it. But now there's this scripture in there, and it says, "To bring my enemies before me so I can slay them." This is Jesus talking.
No.
Yes, that's in their New Testament now. Jesus is talking about murdering his
Yeah.
enemies.
No. I mean, that isn't something that Jesus would say. So
But you know what I thought about when I think about that? I thought about um, if the war is between good and evil, okay,
yes.
and the prophecy says that Jesus will come back and slay the Antichrist, then it kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, I get, yeah, because he's about
But
the only one who can do that. So
it didn't say it like that. The 7 times I read the Bible, the first 7 times, didn't say anything about Jesus killing people. Okay, right? Killing his enemies, right?
right. So where'd it come from?
So, it's actually referencing he's referencing a parable, but he's actually telling the story. But it didn't say it like that before, though.
Okay.
So, and then there's another one I used to, the book of Daniel, and people remember Daniel in the lion's den. that story of Daniel in the Bible. Daniel was this, really good guy who followed God, and he was a vegetarian. He wouldn't eat the meat from the kings, and said he had better skin and healthier than the people of Egypt or whatever. Or well, I guess they were in. Let's see, who was it that captured the Assyrians? Persia, or would have been Iran, captured the
Yeah.
Jerusalem. Yeah, so one of those. But he was being held. When Jerusalem got conquered, they had to live in the country of the people that took over Jerusalem. And at that time, the king liked Daniel, so he kind of, even though he ended up, getting thrown into the lion's den, the lions didn't eat him and stuff like that. So he was a pretty well liked person by the king and his people, but except for some of the bad guys didn't like Daniel because he was a good guy. But there's a really interesting part about this story now that I don't ever remember it being there. It says now when the king talks about Daniel, he says he renamed him Belshazzar. Belshazzar, I think it says. And he said, because the spirit of the holy gods are in thee. And he uses that word gods. And then he says that Daniel is the master magician. And I was pretty shocked when they said that Daniel was a magician, because I didn't know that Daniel practiced magic. And because I never heard any of the Christians or the preachers ever talking about the most beloved guy in the Bible, Daniel, who's supposed to be like the most best dude in the whole book, right? And he's actually like what? Who was that in King Arthur's time? Who was the magician?
Oh, Merlin.
Yeah. So he's kind of like Merlin, right? He's a magician, and he's a master magician. And it says that there is no secret that is kept from you, Daniel. You know everything. You're the wisest of all of them. You are the master diviner, the master magician. And I'm like, that's actually in the Bible now.
Right.
So I just thought that was very weird. That was I was like, Daniel's a magician? When did that happen?
Right.
Like what?
Yeah. There's too much going on, too much changing.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like
it describes the world as a matrix now in the Old Testament, that we're in a matrix,
Yeah, that word was never in the Bible before. That amazes me.
But if you Google the word matrix, it comes up womb.
Really?
It means womb. Yeah.
Huh.
Like we're in a womb. We're in somebody's womb. Yeah. We're in a matrix. We're in a womb, which would give light to like the mother earth. If we're in her, we come from the earth, and the
Right.
womb, the mother, right? I mean, just saying. That's what the word matrix. That's what they say.
That could be it.
Yeah, that's what they say. The word is matrix now in the Bible, and that we're in a matrix.
Right. Well,
And that's a weird story because you and I both know Tom Althouse, and Tom Althouse worked for Pat Robertson, and he wrote movies, and he wrote the actual script for the movie The Matrix.
right.
And he turns around, he goes to Disney or whatever. He works with Disney. They end up taking his writing and stealing it from him, and then making the movie The Matrix. But he actually called it The Immortals. That's the title that he gave the book. or the movie, and so but they renamed it the Matrix, and it was supposed to be the Immortals. So who's to say? Maybe Tom's movie was out before in another timeline, and it was called the Immortals. I don't even know. Who knows?
Could be. I mean, I don't know. When we sit here and we say that this world is not what people think it is, and they say, well, how so? Well, open your eyes and really look around, because things are just not right. They can't say this is all right. I mean, there are things going on that are just totally backwards, upside down, and it's not right.
Right?
I was thinking also, they made y'all remember the Oscar Mayer Wiener car?
Yeah.
All right. You remember how it was spelled? There's another one with an E or an A.
There's a song. There's Oscar. I don't know. There's a little tune that they sing, and they spell it out.
Well, that one's no. The only thing they spell out on that is baloney. But the Oscar Mayer truck,
right?
When it was first brought out, it was brought out. Let me see if I can find this in my thing. It was first brought out where it was spelled with an E. Meyer was spelled with an E. And now they say that it is spelled with an A. And
it's just one little letter difference, and people think that's not a big deal, but it's when you start adding up everything that's changing, everything's a big deal.
Right. Oh, I got a good one for you, though. Okay. New Zealand. Now, they used to say that New Zealand was, what was it, south of Australia? And now New Zealand is north of Australia.
I noticed, right away that the continents had changed. Some of them had changed the shape. Some of them were bigger than they were before. Like Greenland got bigger, and things like that. It's like the different coastlines had changed. It was weird stuff like that. Like, and I remember it was like back in 2014, I think it was. All of a sudden, everybody started getting new addresses, and they started changing street names and everything. Like, it was like everywhere. And it was like, what the heck is going on? So many different things happening,
Right. And you've got to actually do the footwork and go back and try to find this stuff. You can't just take somebody's word for granted.
I gotta let my dog go real quick. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Keep talking.
But you can't just go by what anybody else says. I found a lot of stuff like the stuff about New Zealand. I had to go digging and looking for that, and I found it. You can't just look at one thing and say, nope, it's right here, never mind, I'm done. You have to look for this stuff, and you sometimes have to dig real deep for it. So that's why a lot of people, either they just don't want to take the time to do their own research on it, and it's easier for them to look at you and say, you're crazy. It's easier to do that than to go do your own research. I mean, I'm not the brightest crayon in the pack, but I tell you what, if I want to find something, I go looking until I find it. And more than likely, I find it.
Another weird word that was in there and Daniel was the word oracle.
Oracle.
The oracle is in the Bible now, and it's in the Matrix. The oracle. So you have the word matrix, you have the word magician, and now you have oracle. You know, and that was I. I was never in the original King James version back when I read it before. It was just I thought that is so weird. To have the word oracle in there now.
It's almost like they took stuff from the Matrix and decided to go from the movie and
Yeah,
decided to go ahead and just put it into the Bible.
right. And it's weird because another thing is that Tom Allhouse believes in God. And so
Right.
now you have elements of that movie in the Bible. Which is really weird. Like there's definitely a connection, but it's just a weird connection. Definitely. Why those things would be written into the script of the Bible now,
Right.
And I remember when the movie Matrix came out, I had never heard that word used like that before. So, and I had already read the Bible all those times. It was,
I don't think I've ever heard that
yeah,
word used before that movie.
I know. It was just a weird word, Matrix. What is that?
Well, now we know it means womb.
Right? Well, even Tom didn't even have it called the Matrix. He called it the Immortals,
Right.
So who's responsible, for that? That's what I want to know.
Who's responsible for a lot of things? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I think that I just never really had taken the time to go back that far and try to figure out exactly when some of these things got changed.
You want to
Uh,
hear another really weird one?
what's that?
Okay, so there used to be quite a few stories in there about the old wineskin and the new wineskins. You don't mix, old wine with new wine in the wineskins, right?
Right.
And they used that term, they carried wine inside the wineskins, right? And so now it was talking about, I think, carrying these wineskins on their shoulder, right? They used to carry the little strap on their shoulder.
Right.
Now it's not wineskins in there anymore. Is that they were carrying bottles on their shoulder? Like, does that even make sense?
No.
Bottles back in the Old Testament, like bottles on your shoulder? Like
No,
what?
they use the
How the hell are
wine
you going to carry?
skins.
Am I going to stick a bottle on my shoulder?
It's like
Or
they made them. They're sacks that they used to put up. They would put the wine in. So, and they were made of animal skin,
yeah,
so yeah, they
it
were
doesn't
wine
say
skins.
wineskin anymore. It says
I don't
bottles.
I didn't even think back then they had bottles. Do you?
That's what a lot of people say. I don't think they had bottles back then. I don't know if they did or not, so I can't say. But that went. Because I remember reading, and because I had tried to memorize that Bible, and I remember, it says, don't mix the old wine with the new wine. At least it becomes something, and it's like not mixing two kinds of cloth together. You do not mix old wine with new wine because then the
Right.
bottles or then the wineskins would burst. It said wineskin. Of course, now it's bottles or whatever. I don't know. But you know, so yeah,
Wow.
that was
And
that was a real.
when you sit here and you think about all the different things that have changed through the years, now I can understand, your younger generation not knowing a lot of this stuff because, well, number one, if they didn't pick up books and read about it, older books and read about it, then they wouldn't know about it. So to them, they take all the new that is out there now, and that's what they use, and that's what they go by. So, along with us sitting here saying, "Oh, that has something to do with the Mandela effect," they look at you like you're crazy. What's that? Well, it's
Another
the same
one
thing as a conspiracy theory. There you go.
in the book of Genesis, it used to say, that one day that Eve, talking about Adam and Eve and the garden and stuff like that. It used to say that one day, Eve's, she would bruise the head of the serpent with her heel. Okay, that's what it used to say, right?
Okay.
But now it says the other way around. It says that the serpent will bruise her head, and she'll bruise she'll bruise her head, and she'll bruise its heel, or I don't know. It's something completely different now. I can't even say it because it's not even the same prophecy. Like that prophecy has changed. Okay. So it's mind-boggling, and that's in Genesis, where it said it's that completely changed around. I'm like, what?
It's like the first book. How can you do that?
Yeah.
Who does that?
I mean, well, supposedly that book was written by Moses. He was supposed to have been the author of the book of Genesis. So Moses didn't come around until like way late in the game,
Yes.
So
I know that. You know that. Most preachers, I would think, know that.
yeah.
So yeah.
So they just have to go back and, Moses' time, and then, whatever they did. But, they could have went back. They could have went, because see, King James reprinted a lot of stuff in 1611. Okay, in England, they had printing presses that they had opened up, had started printing. I think his grandfather or father had started printing again in England. So that's why he put together the collection of, actually, I think it was like 80 something books or something at that time. So, and now it's down to 66 books, but the Catholic Church the Catholic Church actually has more books in it, but different people have made decisions to pull certain books out of there, like Enoch, and there's actually a book of Susanna too.
Do you think that anybody one day will ever get all the actual books together?
Well, they're out there. There's about 800 of them, so that I know of. There's 800 to 900 books total. So if who wants to put a collection together, it'd be a big freaking book. 800 books in one book.
Well,
the thing would be like, you have to have encyclopedia.
Well, I mean, okay. So if they took them,
cool.
Look,
that's a good.
Remember when they used to sell encyclopedias, and you
had I have
so many of them. Okay, so they can make that into a set. I mean, if they can make the encyclopedias into a set, why can't they make the Bible into a set?
I have a Webster encyclopedia set. I have a whole set. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't even think you can find those anymore.
Right.
I don't even think. Good luck.
I
hang on to them.
Yeah, I hang on to them. I have another encyclopedia book. It's about that thick. I mean, it's about that big. It's a big red book, and I mean, it has so much stuff in it.
Right.
Pretty cool.
I mean, there's a lot of things
that would be really cool if somebody actually, did a book series like that with all the books,
I mean, why not? Because there's a lot that we don't know that were originally written, and they kept them, and nobody ever learned them.
Yeah,
because they get them from everybody, and and people would say, "Oh, now come on, why would they do that?" And I'll tell you why: because they didn't want us to know the truth.
Well, there's,
truth be told, there it is.
Isn't there like historical evidence where they would come in and burn the books, burn the library, burn the to take away the people's information. You know,
Yes. Yes.
the
Yeah.
the it wasn't at the Library of Alexandria or Alexandria
I think
that was
yes.
burned. Yeah, it was
You
one
know,
of the oldest libraries. Yeah,
and then now they tell you, well, we don't need books. You can look it all up on the internet. Really? Who does the internet?
well, where do you think the internet gets their information from? The books. You know, come
Yeah.
on. So
Or what they want you to know. That's what they
yeah,
put in there. So
right?
it all goes up there on the same. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Am I sounding like a conspiracy theorist? Okay, people. When it says conspiracy, more than likely it's true.
More than likely, there's some truth to it.
Absolutely.
You know,
One way or another, there's some kind of truth to it. I love conspiracy theories. I think they're
right?
great because they end up, if you wait a little bit longer, they come true every time.
Well, it's just like the peanut butter, Jif and Jiffy.
Oh,
You know, and just like
Mr. Peanut.
there's like so many like different cereals that have changed their names or their logo or their sayings or and then there's the the movie Forrest Gump. We mentioned that before. Forrest Gump,
Life
where
was
he's
like
saying
a box. My
life,
mama always said life was like
life
a box of
is
chocolates. You never know
life
what you're going to
is
get.
like a box. Yeah, like it is about
Yes,
like a
it
box.
was.
But
Yep.
now if you have the old VCR or the old movie and you play it back now, it won't say is, it'll say was. And then Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner,
Yep.
and now he says, build it and he will come. It doesn't say anything about build it and they will come. There's no they anymore.
They
And
will
we
come.
said in the beginning, who is they?
The baseball, the whole baseball team.
No,
That's
no, no,
what it's about.
no. We said in the beginning of our conversation, we talked about they.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They.
And we said, who are they? So now they leave the they out of Field of Dreams.
Yeah, but still, who is he?
Now it's a he. So we want to know who is that that's changing the timelines. Could that been Michael Aquino?
Right? Who is that he?
Did he?
And then it's like Mr. Peanut. I know Mr. Peanut from when he had his little spectacle glass. Okay?
Oh yeah, or the Monopoly guy, the Monopoly guy
Yeah,
with the
him too.
monocule or whatever, and he doesn't have it anymore. Yeah,
But now they ain't never had it. You're talking about ain't never had it. Yes, they did.
yeah. Whatever. Well, if people don't know, the Philadelphia experiment and the Shining Mountain and all that story with government time travel and government has had reverse engineering and UFO technology and science and
Well,
cloning and
I know
everything
that
that's going on.
I know that our next show on Friday, we're going to do them on government projects, certain
Yeah.
government projects.
And we'll find out how messed up the Mandela effect got because of it. Thank you.
Exactly. One thing kind of leads into another. Yeah, we're going to do it on government projects, MK Ultra, Project Pegasus, so on and so forth. Things that people don't want to believe that are there or know that they had them at one particular point in time and say they stopped. And if you honestly believe that stopped, well, you are sadly mistaken.
Right.
So yeah, that's going to be our Friday show. That's what we're going to do. And we don't only have the research for it and going to get more, but we have people that are possibly going to be on here that have lived through it themselves.
Right.
So, and government people, the government doesn't care whose lives they mess up or why. If it benefits them, hey.
It's just, they're starting, now the government has come out and said, yes, UFOs are real. Yes, aliens are real. Yes. they finally, but look at the year. This is 2024, and they're just now, you know, they've known for a long
And
time.
people have known, yes, it's like the 1940s, if not more.
I
I mean,
mean,
well, look at the Egyptian people. Their drawings, they draw spaceships on their wall. They drew them.
right?
So,
But it's just that our government,
I mean, really,
wants to just stay, you know,
was King Tut
they're
a
involved in it.
conspiracy
They're
theorist?
involved in it.
Was King Tut a conspiracy theorist? I mean, really, King Tut go in there and drew a spaceship, but he was a conspiracy theorist?
Oh, one of the things that used to always bother me when I started researching all this stuff, and I always, this thing about the pyramids in Giza and how they line up with the Orion constellation and everything, and that was always a big deal for me, right? And Egypt being, where Jesus supposedly was taught, where Moses was taught, everybody went to Egypt for education. Okay. So you have these pyramids that are in Egypt. And I used to always wonder why these particular pyramids, and this is like back before 2012, why these pyramids were missing the capstone, why they didn't have the capstone. So I always wondered, I said, well, I wonder if when I read the Sumerian text about the Anunnaki gods and how they came down here and they made slaves of the human race and they were mining for gold for Nibiru. And whenever I read that, I wondered, because they were saying that the pyramids were used as kind of like they would know to land there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I was getting something. Go ahead.
Okay. So I always wondered why the capstones were missing off the pyramids, and if they were solid gold, if they, because they were gone. And I'm like, did somebody steal the gold and take the top of the pyramid off? I always wondered about that. And there were some old Gnostic books that talked about Jesus was, so in the Bible, it talks about Jesus being the cornerstone of the foundation. But in those books, it said he wasn't just the cornerstone. He was the capstone. He was the top of the pyramid of wisdom. Of, like if the pyramid represents the wisdom of God, then Jesus is at the top of that. He's not the bottom. He's not the foot. He's at the top. He's that gold, at the top. So that's what my thought was. Well, then after like 212, all of a sudden I looked at all the pyramids and now they have capstones on top. And it looks like, if you look at them, it is so freaky because it looks like somebody just freshly poured cement and the color doesn't match. So it looks like they just added these capstones to the pyramids and now they got a top. Okay. But if you look at it, it looks like, someone does a bad job and you got this little wiggle at the bottom of the concrete connecting to the other one. Yeah. It looks like it. It's like a new add, like if you're going to build a building and you're going to have old concrete and then you add a new slab to it. That's what it looks like. Old and new. It's not the same concrete. Huh?
I've been doing an awful lot on researching Nikola Tesla. And in researching Nikola Tesla, I have found out an awful lot about the pyramids. And I mean a lot about the pyramids. And what they're actually originally what they were built for. Because some people sit there, a lot of people think that they were built so that the wealthy Egyptian high priest or whatever they were could be buried in them as a temple. But that's not what they're for. And they've only found them buried next to them, but they have never found one sarcophagus inside of those pyramids.
I heard that. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why. And Nikola Tesla knew what it was. And it's very, very interesting. And we're going to do that one day too, because I'm still doing stuff on it. It's Nikola Tesla was an amazing man, absolutely amazing man who, boy, was he smart.
Do you know? Okay, so when we talk about 911 and the Twin Towers, okay, something I was listening to today was pretty odd. I had not realized it. Okay, so let's just say, you know, based on the theory, the conspiracy theory, based on that theory that somebody went back in time, let's just say, I'll throw a theory out there that I have. Let's just say the government was working on the Philadelphia experiment with the Eldridge ship, and they were wrapping it with the Tesla copper. They were trying to make a cloaking, something that, like the Iron Dome in Israel, but they were trying to make something cloak the ship to be invisible, to where, with electricity, make the ship invisible, so when they went out to fight, that the enemy did not see our ships coming in. We were invisible to them.
Right.
Like a mirror, like if you had a mirror and reflects, and you can't see what's on the other side of the mirror, right? So they were trying to make this, and they supposedly wrapped this thing all up. This is what they said. And what happened is it created a portal for time jumping, and the Aldrich, it left its port and went to a whole bunch of different places. And then we end up in the future with 9/11, and you have these two airplanes that crash into two buildings, but you have three buildings that actually are taken out. And the one is, how far away is that one, Brenda?
I think it was like 2 blocks over.
Yeah.
2 blocks over and like down a block. So it was building 7, and building 7 had no plane hit it. Building 7 had no damage done from the other 2 buildings, but building 7 fell also.
So, one of the things I was reading tonight was it was about that day. Did you know that there was a huge hurricane coming toward New York, barreling toward New York, and once the airplanes, or supposed airplanes, or whatever airplanes, or real airplanes, who knows, or detonation, or holographic images that were being shown to the public, whatever. But whatever happened in this event, right? During that day, this humongous storm was headed right toward New York, and once the towers were taken out, the storm stopped and turned around and left. Now, that tells me, like just my brain, that whatever happened in the past, it was something else, another timeline was created, and it was going to happen, but maybe it would be an earthquake, maybe it would be a storm, a tornado that you couldn't see. Something was going to take the towers out because it took it out in another timeline. So it was just a matter of what that was. Now, I believe that the government, when they had the Philadelphia experiment, I believe that they knew exactly the disasters that they would cause in the future. So they would use that information and take advantage of that. And that's how I believe they used that situation to create the problems that they are in the Middle East and attacking all those other people over there, which they're still doing that, but now they don't really have a legitimate reason other than they're just greedy and wanting to take more land and kill the people to get it. And I mean, that is right now their reason. It's ours because we're better than the rest of you all, because
we can,
because our race is better than your race, and therefore we're the bosses and you're the little peons in this little bowl of soup. So We can
I think we're
tell.
all sitting in the middle of too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
You know, you know,
Oddly enough, I think we all need to sit down and have us a powwow.
you know, it's just, it's just gotten out of control. The whole planet is out of control. It's been out of control, but it's really out of control.
Like some of these people's mamas didn't teach them well enough or something. I don't know.
Well, we could go all the way back to the story. Let's go back to the story of the Bible. Okay, so according to the story of the Bible, according to somewhat the Bible has a little bit of information about it, but it's very vague. But according to the story, is when Adam and Eve were first there, Eve claims that the Lord God, who later on is described as Satan, that he gave her two children, Cain and Abel. Okay, so Cain ends up killing Abel kills Cain, and so the Canaanites, the Cains become the serpent seed, or the seed of Satan. Okay, so that's the bloodline. So that they end up, Cain ends up going and mixing with other humans, and so they're the ones that are the Zionists, Satanists, or whatever. Okay, so. And then Jesus said that you have to let the tares and the wheat grow up together. Okay, and the wheat being the children of God, the tares being the children of Satan. Okay, so they will grow up together on the earth until the time when the angels will come and bring judgment. And when the judgment comes, they will separate the wheat from the tares. They will gather the tares, and then they will throw them into the fire and burn them in hell. Okay, so and that God says that he won't pull up the tares until the time is appointed, because he could injure the wheat. Okay, so you have in that story of the Bible, Adam and Eve, they actually have only one child together, and that references that it's Adam and Eve's child, not Eve and Satan. Okay, so Adam and Eve had Seth. So Seth is the father of the children of God. They are the wheat. So you can go back to there, and then you could say, so this is where it started in the beginning, has a beginning and an ending. So this is where we're at now. We have children of God and children of Satan. Everybody's, so this is what we're dealing with.
And dealing we are. I've seen so many different videos just this week about, well, the one that's really killing me is these giant aliens in the mall. It's going and going and going and going. Every time I turn around, I'm watching different videos on this.
Right. Well, and here we go back to that. Okay. So
who's telling the truth?
So here's the thing. So, okay, this is a weird story, but I'll try to make it as simple and I'll jump on the timeline as quick as I can. You had God. He created the mother. The mother brought forth, she's the womb. She brings forth everything. Okay. Jesus is born, or Isa, or Yeshua, whichever language you want to speak. Okay. But we all know the Christ. Okay. He comes forward, right? The Savior. He comes forward, and then Sophia, who is known as wisdom. Okay. So Sophia is a very powerful, gifted being that's created from God. She somehow, I don't know, the story was she somehow, I don't really want to get into it because it's kind of controversial, but she ends up creating a being that they call basically Satan. Okay. She realizes that she has erred and in creating him. And so he is so powerful, because he's so close to the source in power, in creation, right? He's so powerful that he creates a whole world that we live in. He creates a whole myriad of angels and beings and everything. Then they create mankind from the clay, from the dirt. But man is but a worm. That's why in the Bible it says man is but a worm. He's a worm, and he's, so and then he goes and pulls Eve out of Adam, and so we have Adam and Eve. Okay. And then he blows the life force into them, and they become a living soul. Okay. Well, I'm trying to remember where I was going with this story, but basically, this being that was created, he creates beings. Well, what it says, his name is Yaltabaoth, and this is in the Gnostic language. In the Gnostic language, he is called Yaltabaoth. He creates a son called Sabaoth. Now, the interesting thing about Sabaoth is actually mentioned in the Bible. Okay, so Sabaoth is in the New Testament several times, and what it says about Sabaoth is, see, Sabaoth, he listened to basically the Holy Spirit, and he listened to his father, who was Satan. Okay, and the Holy Spirit corrected the devil and said, because he said, I am God and there is no other, there is no savior but me. He said, this is right. And she said, you're a fool, and there is another who was before you, and that's Christ. And it said at that point, Sabaoth rejected his father, and he chose to follow the Holy Spirit. So then it says at that point, she places him into the 8th heaven. Okay, because in this realm we have 7 realms, 7 heavens. That movie, remember, there's a movie called The Seven Heavens or something.
Yes.
Okay. So there's 7 heavens that Satan and his demons can ascend to, up to the 7th. But Sabaoth is in the 8th. Okay. So he's given his consort, which is Zoe, which is called life. She's life. Life will teach Sabaoth the things of God. Okay. So he is powerful. So he creates an army. And so this is why it says that Sabaoth is the Lord of the army of the hosts of God, because now he's given authority to over the angelic realm. Okay, so the angelic realm is the good side that follows God and the truth. Then you have Yaltabaoth, Satan, who has created a whole army of demons and devils. Okay, and so this is what's happened is you have good versus evil. You have angels that are under the order of Sabaoth, the good, and that's what he's called, Sabaoth the good. And so in the book of Revelations, it says, if it had not been for the Lord Sabaoth, we'd all be like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh.
Yes. So, and that's in the New Testament. So anybody who has not studied these older books and they don't know who Sabaoth is, then they wouldn't know that he is kind of been put in charge over all the angelic realm that is here to protect God's people and to fight for us. Okay. So yeah, Satan has an army and his demons, but God has a bigger army that's more powerful. Okay. And that would be the army of Sabaoth. Now, the other scripture talks about Sabaoth in there. It says that Sabaoth, that the cries of the people who have been, I think it's how it puts it, have been mistreated on the earth and taken advantage of, their cries enter the ears of Sabaoth. So he hears us when we cry out to him, like, Lord, help us, Lord. We need help. We're getting ripped off. We're getting this happening to us. So he hears us. And then he commands his army, his angels, to fight for us, to protect us, to help us. So we are in a spiritual battle between good and evil. And, so yeah. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. I tried to break it down.
Get it out there.
As simple as I can, but it's a very complex story. But, basically, we're in the battle. We're in the middle between good and evil, and the good and evil exists in this realm,
Yes.
But we have help. We have help.
Yes. Now, I sent you a video earlier of a prophet who is giving prophecy back in 2000, from 2009 to 2014, and then he passed away. Did you get a chance to watch that video?
Who was it?
Don't remember his name, but I know I sent it to you. But it's in that video, and all of his prophecies, they go from, they tell you everything. He tells you everything that's happening now.
Are you talking about Kim Clement?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to watch Kim Clement all the time. Yeah, he used to be a Satanist, and he was involved in Hollywood and all that. And then he had a conversion over to God's side, and he was like the singing prophet. He would sing his songs, and so a lot of people listen to him. Mm-hmm.
I seen that come up today, and it was very interesting, the stuff he was saying about right now. I mean, even mentioning names that weren't even thought of that had nothing to do with government or anything. But he was laying it down of where they fit in.
I think he used to sing this one little phrase. He saw us in the future, and we look much better than we did before. That was this little famous quote he would always say, something to that effect.
Oh, it's really interesting if you get a chance to listen to.
Well, I used to listen to Kim. He did die. He died.
He passed away from cancer.
It's pretty weird. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. But yeah, he was pretty popular amongst the Christian people. A lot of people.
I actually had never heard of him, and then that came up today, and I was listening to him, and I mean, with what he was saying back then,
yeah,
which is about today, and even mentioning names, and I was like, whoa. Wait a minute. It was kind of enlightening a little bit.
Yeah. It's like Julie. You like Julie Green. You like Julie Green too, right?
You like Julie Green? I do like her. But at the same time, not only was it enlightening, but it kind of gave a lot of hope. He's seen things that are already done and finished. Also,
right,
and it kind of really fit in. And when it really said, well, somebody had asked him, or he had asked God, why are you doing this? And God said, because I am displeased with both parties. And I was like, you're not the only one there, buddy. We got you back there, God. We're just pleased too. But yeah, it was pretty good. I really did like it. I sat there and I listened to the whole thing. And and his daughter was talking to somebody else about, when he had apparently he'd gotten some kind of cancer in his brain. And it was slow what happened to him. At first he couldn't speak, and then he couldn't walk, or he couldn't walk first and then he couldn't speak. And so I thought, God, that's pretty tragic. But
yeah, he went under a major attack. That's for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was,
Yeah, I've listened to his daughter. She seems real nice.
yeah.
And there's a lot of really devout followers of him. So there's a lot of
And I do
people.
I like Julie. I listen to her often. I've been listening to her for quite a while, actually, since she's been doing this. And sometimes I get confused because
Right?
she'll have one come on, and then it'll be for a different day, and then it dawns on me, well, that's because she travels around and does the speaking at some of these tour things.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's why.
Well, it just kind of goes along with Sabaoth the Good and an army of good people, and an army of angels, and an army of there's an army of God's people, an army.
Yes, and they're everywhere.
We're
And
not alone. We're
nope,
definitely not alone, even though sometimes it might feel like that. We're not alone.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
I know it. So, what else we got going on?
So what else are you thinking about?
Well, I think that every time I want to talk about 9/11, then I start getting pissed off. So, I'm not sure
Well, you know what? Okay, what about Back to the Future and 9/11? Talk about that.
back
How
to the
much the show Back to the Future, how many things in there pointed to 9/11?
God. There was even things back then that pointed to, wasn't Biff supposed to be Donald Trump?
Well, actually the man that wrote the script, he has a little interview where he says he wrote that particular character in reference to Donald Trump.
Ah, that's interesting. Movies. A lot.
And Back to the Future is really about time travel again. It's all connected, you know.
Yep. And a lot of these movies, if you really sit and pay attention, when you watch them back then, they pertain to things that happen now. A lot
Mhm.
of them. It's like, and you try to tell people they put what they're doing in movies because in that way they're not lying to you. And people are like, no, no, no. Well, think about it. Think about some of the old movies that you watched and think about things that have happened now. It's all in there, all of it, even cartoons. How do you explain that? How do you explain The Simpsons and everything that they do and all their little versions?
You in order to believe that, you have to believe that there is higher powers than what's in the physical realm. You have to believe in the spiritual realm.
True. Yeah. And I know a lot that don't. So, I mean, I do.
Right.
And I see a lot. I see things a lot different than what I used to years ago. And it's really, I can handle it. Um, I've been put under. I've died 9 times.
Not wow.
In 24 hours. And I was told things when I was there. I seen things when I was there.
I think my mom told me she died like 9 times on the table giving birth to me. So
And I mean, it really is. Some things are amazing.
sorry, Mom.
I know, right? Sorry about that. But hey,
I broke all her ribs and I killed her 9 times when she gave birth to me.
it's funny with my daughter when I went into labor with her, they were trying to contact her father because I was going to have her, and I remember not being able to see anything, but I remember laying there and hearing the doctor and the nurses say that they needed to get a hold of the baby's father because they were going to have the baby because I wasn't going to make it. And then this doctor came in. I heard him come in. And he all of a sudden said, just give her the epidural. And the minute they gave me the epidural, I came out of it. And then I started yelling at them all. Oh, y'all were just going to let me lay here and die. And you weren't going to try anything, huh? And they were looking at me. Yes, I heard every single word y'all said.
Right.
So, that whole thing when you think people are in comas, or you think, because you'd be surprised. I mean, I know when I was in mine, I heard my daughter's voice. I heard my son-in-law when they were in there talking. I knew my dad was there before he got up there to see me because I heard him. I did hear things on and off. And then I dreamt some things and, was shown some things, was told some things. And it really is amazing when you are at that point where you're told you have to go back, but yet you see what's there and you don't want to. But yet, when you're told it's not time for you yet, you have work to do. You're like, okay, who am I to argue?
We're souls having a physical experience.
It was having a something. Having a something, all right. But I was, and the voice that told me, you have work to do, called me by name. I'd never heard that voice before. But I knew that it meant business. No, you're not done. You have work to do. You must go back. So it's like, okay. And I don't know how much longer. I heard the.
So who do you think? Who did you think that voice belonged to?
Oh, I know who it belonged to after I woke up.
Who?
It belonged to God.
Okay.
And it was very, very forceful. It was very, very distinct. Very. And as plain as it could be. And, it was funny because when I woke up, the nurses said they tried to take me off of the ventilator a week earlier, but I wasn't having it. I wouldn't breathe them out. I wasn't doing it. So they went ahead and they put me on it for about another week and they let it go. And then I don't know. I know they took it off of me before I woke up, because when I woke up, it was not on me. And I remember opening my eyes. I know it was dark. It was nighttime because they had my blinds open. I could see the dark and the lights outside. And I woke up and there was something stupid on TV, and it was irritating me, but I couldn't speak. And I couldn't call the nurse because, well, I couldn't find my call button anywhere. And I'm like, okay. So I just sat there aggravated until she came in. And then she realized I couldn't speak and all I wanted was water. And they told me I couldn't have it. I had to wait 24 hours after I was taken off the ventilator before I could have a drink. And then I remember my poor dad. He comes in the next day. He's like, you know who I am? And I'm like, I could just tell him no. And but he was sitting there with me, and there was a table in there with a bottle of water on it. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, so he gets real close, and I'm trying to whisper, I want that bottle over there of water. And he's like, the nurse said I can't give you any water. And I'm like, and he goes, what? And I said, you don't have a hair on your nutsack if you don't go get me that bottle of water. Like, what did you just say? And I wanted that bottle of water, my God.
Right. You knew you needed it.
Yeah. So the nurse comes in the next day and she goes through my bag and she's like, she said, you have a pack of cigarettes in here. You smoked. Do you want me to get you a patch? And at that time, they told me I'd been in a coma for over a month. And I was like, I'll trade you. And she goes, what are you going to trade me? I said, you keep your patch and get me a cup of ice. She goes, all right. One way or another, I was putting something cold and wet in my mouth. I didn't care. Did not care. So she brought me two cups of ice, and I mean, I think I ate them like I hadn't had anything forever. And it just felt so good. It was like I just really wanted something to drink. But yeah, it was an experience, I'll tell you. And you know, I woke up not remembering a lot of things. And it was already hard enough. I had already had enough memory loss in my body. I didn't need any more. But I woke up with a lot more lost. But it's all right, you know. Slowly but surely I gain some more, and it'll be all right. It'll work its way out. You know, what do you do?
So, you know, what is going on with these giants and these aliens and these demons and these things at the mall, and you know, everything that's popping up into our reality? It's like the we live in a 3D world, and the 4D is like revealing itself, right? I mean,
Yes.
like we're starting to see the things that we could only imagine before was there.
And the sad thing about it is all the people that are still stuck on that 3D level that think that, you know, life is grand and they just go on with work and, you know, they go on with life.
Probably a lot of them were in that mall, that day in Miami. They probably never believed any of that was possible. And then,
when that veil from that 4D falls, they're going to be in such awe, they're not going to know what to do. It's like when I try to tell somebody something, I tell them, you know, I'm not saying this because I'm crazy, or you can think I'm crazy or not. I'm saying this because I care. I'm saying this because I care about you, because I don't want you to be dumbfounded. Still just keep what I tell you in the back of your head. That way, when it happens, you can say, oh, wait a minute. She knew about this and told me. So this is okay. That's why I say the things that I say when I try to talk to people. You know, I put up with a lot of griff over it, let me tell you. I know, you know. I know you know.
I know.
We know, you know. But
oh no. Oh no. Not again.
Oh yeah, you know. But you know, the thing of it is that Florida's got some shit going on. They got something going on between that, the tornadoes, and I don't even know what else.
Okay, so we just talked about that hurricane that was coming towards 9/11. Okay. So let's just say, based on everything we've been talking about, the Mandela effect, based on time travel, based on catastrophes where a whole bunch of people die, and all these weird things start happening around. What if what's going on really in Florida is like the birthing or warning signs of some great disaster that's coming to Florida, based on the fact that all these weird events are hitting. Like, we have some supernatural beings showing up. We also have that tornado that hit, or whatever, that hurricane that hit, or was it was a tornado, right? Wiped out a bunch in Florida.
Tornadoes.
So, so what is really going on? Because everything's connected. So why are these things happening in Florida? What is really going on would be the question. Is there some event that's going to unfold in Florida? It's something big,
Good possibility.
you know.
It's hard to say anymore. I mean, really, if you sit and think about it, is there a big event that's going to happen anywhere, everywhere? I mean, it it's not just there. I mean, there's look at all the earthquakes that have been happening in where was it? Japan had those big
Yeah.
old earthquakes hit back to back, you know. I think that Mother Nature is pissed off. That's the way I look at it. There are too many people on this earth that are doing things that are not right. So not only is God not pleased, for crying out loud, I think that Mother Nature is pretty pissed off herself.
Well, there, you know,
Say Mother Earth.
there is a thing as reaping what you sow, and you know
True.
what goes around comes around,
True.
and we're in those times right now where that seems to be what's happening on the earth right now too.
Yes.
While all this other stuff is going on,
Yeah.
you know.
It's like it's not one thing, it's another. And I always just sit there and when I hear something new that happens, I try to find a little bit of humor in it because nothing surprises me anymore. You know, like I said, this whole thing came up about these giant aliens in the mall. That's the first thing I did was go, wait a minute, they didn't just take that from a song, did they?
What if? Okay, let's just say, what if, for example, let's think about the Iron Dome that's over Israel, right? And then they shooting all the missiles in, and they're not able to hit Israel, right? Because it's protected by this Iron Dome. So let's just say there's this firmament dome. And firmament means a dome, a hard like sky dome over the earth, right? Let's just say there's a, and then the other day we seen this giant walking on the other side of the glass dome. You know, it looked like the lightning was reflecting, and you could see outside. And
Clouds. Yeah.
we're starting to see giants outside the dome. You know, giant aliens are coming in through portals. You know, not as giant as the ones we saw out there, but you know, and the Bible has said on and on and on. The giants were in the land before and after the flood. David killed a giant. You know, some of these were hybrids, and you know, giants have always been around. But maybe they're outside that dome right now. What if that dome gets broken or comes down? Are these giants coming in? I mean, if they get in, that could be, you know, because remember we were talking about it will be in the days of Noah before the flood. Wickedness will become like in the days of Noah, and there were giants in the land. Huh?
I think they're already in. I think what we were seeing was through clouds. I don't think they're outside that dome. I think they're inside already.
Well, some say they're outside of our realm. You know, the glass, the ice wall, and the government's holding, you know, keeping them at bay on the other side. What if they make in? You know, there's theories, you know, conspiracy theories about reptilians that are